From CNN, Trump posts AI image of himself as Pope, leaving Catholics offended and unamused as conclave nears. Trump reacted. He gave a statement on this and said, I don't know who posted it. It wasn't me. Somebody posted it. It's a joke. And they said, well, Catholics are mad. And he's like, what, you mean you saying they can't take a joke? It's not the Catholics. It's the fake news that's drumming this up. Well, we have this from NYS Catholic Conference on X. They said, there is nothing clever or funny about this image, Mr. President. We just buried our beloved Pope Francis, and the cardinals are about to enter a solemn conclave to elect the new successor of St. Peter. Do not mock us. I'm going to show you some more.
Jesus.
You got Ted Lieu. As a Catholic, I take great offense to Donald Trump mocking Catholics. I wish Trump would focus on lowering prices instead. The American economy had negative GDP growth last quarter. That's what he should be focused on instead of making fun of Catholics.
Ted loses Catholic.
And then we have this.
Biden.
Dustin Grage responded just with an image of Ted Lieu standing with this group. What are they called? The Sisters of Perpetual...
The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Yeah.
Satanists.
And they hate Christianity. They hate Catholicism. They mock your religion. And he stands with them.
Yep.
And then has the nerve to come out. This is 100% that meme where the guy says, I have nothing but disdain for your backwards religion. Now let me use it against you because maybe you'll do what I tell you to do now.
This is the same way they treat the Constitution, too. It doesn't matter what the issue is. They will take whatever you hold dear and they will use it against you, but they have no respect for it. And this is one of the reasons why I say, why we all say, they are evil.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They put aside their hate of religion and religious people for 48 hours to hate Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. These guys couldn't care less about Catholicism or the Catholic people or the Pope or any of those things.
I feel like this is the kind of thing. It's how you get a revolution that leads to authoritarianism. So you look at the founding fathers. They had an authoritarian crown. They had a monarch. And the king said, do what we tell you. And they said, this is awful. This doesn't work. The people are being oppressed. We need to govern ourselves. He's 3,000 miles away. Let's write a constitution that guarantees the freedoms of the people and does all these things. Well, over a long enough period of time, for whatever reason, you end up with half the population being psychotic, deranged, histrionic narcissists who will simultaneously disparage and insult Christians and then claim to be them and get mad at Donald Trump over a joke. No matter what Trump does, it's wrong, and they want to cause damage to this country. You've got Democrats, the media simultaneously saying Donald Trump deported a 2-year-old American citizen. The mother was deported, and she wanted the child to go with her. Unacceptable. New York Times runs the exact same story. A mother and father were deported, but the 2-year-old stayed, now in some kind of limbo. Unacceptable. I'm paraphrasing. I'm adding unacceptable. That's the insinuation. Mm-hmm. So which one is it? There's no answer. What I see here is this is how you end up having the pendulum swing the other way. People who want to live in a functional society where we can live, work, and have merit and people don't break the law and they're not stealing from each other are now looking at the freedoms, and I'll put that in air quotes, these tenets, and how it's led to the Democrat Party, how they've let criminals go from prisons, how they've terrorized neighborhoods, destroyed businesses, and now you're starting to see people beg for an authoritarian. It's the other way around. People having meetings being like, this, anybody live and let live can do whatever they want, isn't working. They're sterilizing kids. They're killing kids. They're effectively they're trying to destroy our country. We need someone to come in and set this straight. Now you've got people demanding the inverse.
Yep. I think there's a lot of people actually around Trump. You know, one of my criticisms of the administration are people that want a monarchy. They want someone to be like a dictator. I don't want that at all. But there's definitely people calling for it. And like what Tim's saying, you know, the more this country falls apart, and it has. I mean, 5 years ago, the whole country was shut down by you know, tyrants from around the world. Yes. And we got Biden, who was like a dead tyrant. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, look, and I mean, again, just talking about this Pope thing, I mean, I think one of the reasons the left is so dangerous is that they are entirely bereft also of humour, right? When Trump first answered this question on the lawn of the White House, I laughed my head off. They said, Mr. President, who do you want as Pope? And he said, me. I'd love to be Pope. I mean, his comedic timing, the way he uses humour, which, by the way, to our earlier conversation, is one of his very effective techniques.
Oh, he's funny.
Yeah.
Right, that he uses.
Absolutely.
And you need that in diplomacy, by the way. It's essential. You need to have that. Few understand the importance of humour in that stuff. And so, I think that the left and the Democrats here, no one cares about this image of Trump. I mean, it's any normal person would laugh.
100% of the people that were critical of Trump over this would have been critical of Trump over anything else. This is just the vector of attack.
The left has been doing nothing but mock God for decades.
Yeah, right, but this is the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what Trump, no matter what he does, he's wrong. How do we function as a society if there's a group of people that literally just say, and let's not forget, when Trump was largely out of the spotlight around 2022, and Ron DeSantis was emerging on the scene as a major player, they started writing articles saying Ron DeSantis is worse than Trump.
Yep.
They were prepared for the histrionics immediately, and then Trump came back and they backed off.
This is the MO of the Democrats now. There will be no policy debates from the Democrats anymore until, well, no, I'd say anymore, as long as this is the method that they continue to use. Now, there is a civil war going on in the Democratic Party. Maybe reasonable people will actually win, and they will get rid of the ideological, the race hustlers and all that stuff. Maybe they will actually come back to a sensible, functional representative.
I haven't heard those words associated with that party in a long time. How is that even possible?
Completely understand. Well, I mean, if it was people like Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema, those people, I disagree with them on a lot of stuff, but they weren't like sitting there just saying, look,
Less crazy.
how do I get an angle to introduce articles of impeachment? Because that's what the next Congress is going to do. If the Democrats win, they're going to start writing up articles of impeachment, because Congress doesn't function. There's only like 2 bills that they get through a year, and they're always massive omnibus bills. So they're not in there actually doing any kind of voting or doing any kind of service for the people. They're in there literally only trying to make money for themselves through insider trading or raise their own celebrity, so that way when they get out of Congress, they can get another job. Yeah. So they're not there. Democrats are definitely not there to actually do the business of the people. They're there to resist the GOP, and whether it be Trump now or, like Tim said, it was looking like they were going to start saying that about DeSantis, who is night and day different than Trump. That's unarguable. And then now whoever is actually the person to follow Trump, if it's J.D. Vance, it'll be J.D. Vance. There's a possibility that it's Marco Rubio, and they'll call Marco Rubio all the names. It doesn't matter the person. It's just the method of just their method of operation.
In this context, I have a question for Nick. This is Brian Tyler Cohen on YouTube. I don't know if you've heard of him. He literally posts 99% of his content is just Trump is bad. And we've ragged on this guy quite a bit, and he's not stopped. The train is rolling full steam ahead. Trump is confused. Trump attorney who fears Trump. Trump loses it. Trump gets what he deserves. Trump advisor group sues Supreme Court. Gloves off. Obama deals Trump humiliation. Blah blah blah. You get the point. I made a video last week where I basically outlined YouTube's rules ban algorithmic manipulation. There are a bunch of AI channels that auto-generate Spider-Man videos. They're starting to get banned too. There were several channels that produced AI-generated Trump stories. One of them that went viral was Carolyn Levitt was wearing a cross necklace while sitting on the plane, and the pilot demanded she take it off. It was a nonsense story, but it got millions of views. YouTube banned these channels. Now, they didn't break any of the rules as far as community guidelines go. They just said it was manipulating the algorithm. There's 2 things to consider. There is YouTube's guidelines around Brian Tyler Cohen and David Pakman largely producing what I would call Trump slop. That is speedily made nonsense content, just jamming Trump in the headline with pictures of Trump. And here's where I think it's fair to say this proves it. He doesn't post pictures of himself in the thumbnails. It's not the Brian Show with a picture of him talking about something. Every single thumbnail is Trump. He is gaming the algorithm to generate traffic. Now, civically, should he be allowed to do this? And then YouTube rules wise, should he be allowed to do this? And the question then is, if this gaming the system is generating 200 million views per month, that Trump is bad, feeding an addiction of psychotic people, that will destroy the fabric of this country. So how do we solve for a problem like this? He's got free speech.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you should use algorithms to promote political bias. That's how YouTube worked when it was founded. That's how its reputation was built. I think it's time to get back to basics. Look, I hadn't heard of this Brian Taylor Cohen Tim, and given that it's your show, I won't use aristocratic language like calling him a count without the O, but certainly this is exactly the kind of person that is completely and totally unhelpful in our future in terms of sowing division. The free marketplace of ideas works so long as we don't resort to fraud. And this guy, just from the titles, the captions of his videos,
I mean, look at this. It's all just Trump slop.
What was his channel like?
I don't know. It's all
Biden and Trump, or before. Like, how long has he had this channel? Was it like this in 2016?
I don't know. Periodically, he does have some other characters that pop up, but for the most part, it's 99% just Trump slop. It's slop content. It is he. Look at this. Trump sacrifices his own attorneys. They're nonsense headlines. It is no, like, what's the difference between AI generating this? YouTube banned those channels. Here's my point largely. YouTube is biased, took down channels that didn't break the rules because they were telling stories. Making a video where you tell a fictional story about Carolyn Levitt wearing a necklace isn't against the rules. I think it's bad because people think it is a real story and it's deceptive, but it's not against the rules to make a bunch of stories. They got banned. The dude who is actually fomenting division with slop content has a massive channel with hundreds of millions of views, and he's probably a millionaire. And so the issue I see with this is, civically, how does our country survive if this becomes political discourse?
Normal, yeah.
And this guy brags about how many views he gets off this stuff.
Well, at least we know who ABC is going to replace Jimmy Kimmel with. Look, at the end of the day, Tim, for me, my guideline is the First Amendment. Now, maybe that's going to work against us in some ways, but I think overall, when it all kind of pans out, that's the only option we have, and that's the best course of action that we have.
I think there are challenges right now as it pertains to the First and Second Amendments that have not been answered. And I don't think people want to answer because they're scared to answer. I've had many Republican politicians come on the show, and I ask them, is the Second Amendment absolute? They all say no. What do you mean no? The Second Amendment says what the Second Amendment says. Yeah. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. Yeah, well, the response I always get is, the Founding Fathers didn't know about biological weapons and nuclear bombs. And my response is, so what? If you don't like it, change the Constitution. I honestly don't think it would be that hard. Actually, probably would be impossible. If you came out and said, we want to add this language, no one can have nuclear weapons outside of regulated government agencies, no one's going to let you do it. The 2A people are going to be like, I don't let you touch that thing because the moment you open it up, you're going to screw it up. So we do have this problem now where the government has decided you don't have a right to keep and bear arms, and they've just infringed upon it. The First Amendment, you end up with this. This is not helping this country. I think it's fair to say psychological warfare is more powerful. The pen is mightier than the sword. And so the challenge we're running into with free speech is the exact... Now, I'm going to say this. I am a 2A absolutist. I think people should be allowed to have nuclear weapons. I don't want them to have them. But what I'm saying is the law prohibits the government from banning them. Mm-hmm. And it is also important to point out that private organizations, private companies do have nuclear weapons. As far as the free speech goes, I'm largely in favor of it. But I am recognizing the problem of when you have people who use fraud and what psychological manipulation to trick people into thinking false things politically so they can profit off of it, your country will die. Especially when this guy's getting 4 times the viewership of Joe Rogan.
You think it's real?
The views are real. They're largely based on shorts, however. So what I will point out is this. When Joe Rogan does an episode of his show, he does one video. And he might get, depending on if it's a lesser known guest, 600,000. It's a better known guest, maybe gets 3 million. Sometimes they do way better, like Elon Musk, right? But I think on average, he might end up getting around 1 million or so because sometimes he talks to people he just wants to talk to. Well, this dude, in the last day, he's got, let's ignore the 1 hour ago. He's got 300, 235. So you got 600 right there. You got 1 million views in these 3 videos. You've got about 2 million views in 1 day already. Actually, if we include all of the 1 day videos, you're looking at 2.5 to 3 million views. That's not including his shorts, which are, Trump. You get the point. And these are getting 3 million views, 200,000, 1 million. He is largely crushing Joe Rogan's viewership. So we talk about Joe Rogan being the biggest podcast. And I know I'm singling out this one guy. There's a bunch of channels that do this. But I will say it again. The left is being informed by this. Jimmy Kimmel's the same. Sean Frasick, who runs our social strategy here, was talking about how when he goes through all the monologues for Colbert and Kimmel, it's no different than Brian Tyler Cohen. Trump, every single day, all day, nonstop. Yeah. They're doing it for money, and they've created this addiction spiral. This is where you run into this clash. You believe in free speech and the First Amendment? Fine. Not saying we should do away with that. Not at all. I'm saying I recognize this is what will be born of it. And it's going to be more successful. It's going to crush out the opposition. He gets way more views than we do. He gets 10 times our viewership on this one show. I'll give him that. And he bragged about it. He brags that he can make Trump slop content that fries the brains of people, and he makes millions of dollars off of it. He is unscrupulous. He is a con man. He's a grifter.
Yeah.
How does a country survive when this is half of your political space?
Look, is it any wonder that the left loves eroding the First Amendment but hates prosecuting fraud? I mean, look, if manipulation in many cases, Tim, is fraud. And if this is fraud, then, that there is punishment.
It's speech.
Well, yeah. Look, and I am a First Amendment absolutist. I mean, I believe that words, the lefts like to say that words have consequences. I think that's wrong. Only actions do. Freedom of speech means freedom to live in perfect peace after speech, so long as it is protected by the First Amendment. That's one of the reasons why I started my group, 1A Warriors, to give civil rights protections to those who suffer from both private and public sector retribution as a result of their peaceful free speech.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.